Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Rock In and Celebrate for International Day of People with Disabilities, run by the Rights, Information and Advocacy Center. I'm Carol Cooke. I'm an ambassador for RIAC, as we so fondly call it. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. From the age of about 9, I really had this amazing dream that I wanted to represent my country at the highest level of sport. You see, back then, I thought I was a gymnast. And at the age of 9, my best friend and I, we decided that we were going to try out for an elite gymnastics club. And this was in Canada. And we went there with our ambition just so high that this is going to be the start to our careers. My friend Sharon, she got in. And I had a very uncaring woman who told me I was too fat to even do gymnastics. So with my dream in tatters, I went home in tears. And I must say that I'm very lucky that I have an amazing mother who taught me to think outside the square. When she said to me, if you want to do gymnastics, then you keep doing it. But if you want to go to the Olympics, then maybe you should try a different sport. I'd never thought of that. So I decided the following year that I would take up swimming. And my career was on track. I took to it, as we say, like a fish to water. And by the time I was 15, I was training about 5 hours a day. And my goal was the 1980 Olympics, representing Canada. Unfortunately, that goal died when Canada decided to boycott those games in Moscow, along with the US and most of the Western world, other than, I might add, Australia and the UK. But I always continued to have this dream that I still had this desire to represent my country. But after that happened, I joined the police force in Toronto and I spent 14 years building a career. Life changed drastically when I met my husband, who was an Australian, while I was down here on holidays in 1992. And I ended up going back after my year away, and I went back to work. And eventually, in 1994, he proposed, and I moved down here. And life was fantastic. I mean, what a great place, sport-wise. I'm sport mad. So I was just so excited to be part of a culture in Melbourne that is sport crazy. And I got involved with everything new, Australian rules football. That's where I met my husband, was at a local AFL club. And I became a head trainer there and running around the field with the guys. I joined a master swim club. So I was training, still doing what I loved, the sport I loved in swimming. I dabbled in triathlon. Everything was fantastic. I was building a career with Australia Post. And then life was about to change drastically again. In 1998, after being down in Hobart at nationals, swimming nationals, masters nationals, I had some very disturbing things happening to my body. My balance was off. I was extremely fatigued. And I thought I maybe had the flu coming on. But my balance was so bad, and then my eyesight started to go. Now, my doctor, my GP, thought that I just had an inner ear infection, and which made sense as a swimmer. So we started Stematol, we started antibiotics. It wasn't until I had an eye test and found out that I had optic neuritis. And that young girl who contacted my doctor and said, have her tested for MS. I went to a neurologist to have a whole bunch of tests. But when my appointment came up to go back and find out the results, all my symptoms were gone. So MS was not in the forefront whatsoever. And I decided that my doctor was right. I had an inner ear infection and now it was gone and everything was fine. And as I got to the appointment, he was extremely in a hurry. And I thought, this is really good because I'm wasting his time. He just wants to get me in and out so he can see the next patient. And he called me in and he said, he was very gruff, and he said to me, sit down, sit down. And he pulled a big film out of an envelope and he held it to the ceiling. And he said to me, too many lesions on your brain for someone your age. You've got MS. So basically, your life as you know it is over. I suggest you go home and put your affairs in order before you become incapacitated. I was sitting in this big armchair on my own. And I said one word that day. That was, what? He said, oh, you heard me. You've got MS. So, you're not going to do this silly sports stuff again. You're going to have to quit work and you're going to have to go on a whole bunch of drugs. And to be honest, I don't have time for you as a patient. So I'd suggest you go back to your GP. He can look after you. And with that, he put the film back in the envelope and he walked to the door. I still at that point had only said one word. And he opened the door and he said, hurry up, I have patients waiting. I stood up, and as I walked to the door, he slammed that envelope into my chest. And he had the audacity to say to me, see my secretary on the way out. What I remember about that day, other than that, was that I walked down this really long hallway in an old Victorian house, past his secretary's office and to the front door. And as I heard her calling my name, I opened the door and stepped into a whole new world. To this day, I don't remember driving home. I know which way I would have gone, but I don't remember. And the only thing that snapped me out of it was when I was at home and my 6-month-old puppy put her head in my lap as I was sitting on the couch crying and started to whimper. And I was more focused on her. At that point, I was still by myself, and I made decisions about my husband's life and my life that you should never do while you're dealing with trauma. I was going to give him a divorce. I was going to go home, and I was going to let my family look after me. I was going to be incapacitated. I was thinking worst case scenario, the worst that you could ever imagine. Not being able to do anything for myself, being spoon-fed, having nappies changed. My husband's smart because he said to me when he got home that we had it, I didn't have it, and that what we needed to do was find out more about MS. We knew nothing about it, and that we would deal with it. And I'm happy to say that we're married almost 25 years now. But life continued on, and I decided that MS was not going to dictate who I was and what I was going to accomplish, and nobody was going to tell me what I could and couldn't do. I might have to do things differently, and but I was still going to do things. I got introduced to para rowing back in 2006, and I went great guns at it. I thought, this is fantastic. It's a brand new event in Beijing in 2008. I'm going to be there. And I did make the national team in 2008, and we attempted to qualify. We had no thought of not qualifying. Unfortunately, we missed by 0.8 of a second. So here all those years, I thought my dream of representing my country at the highest level of sport was finally going to come true. But unfortunately, there were other crews who were better than us by 0.8 of a second. I decided I couldn't do it anymore. And I got a swift kick up the butt from my sister through cyberspace, I might add, telling me, why not? If you enjoy doing something, then continue to do it. Don't worry about the destination, just enjoy the journey. She was so right. So I continued to row. I made the following year, 2009, I made the national team, and we came 6th at the World Championships. It was amazing. We thought, great, we've got 3 years to London. We can work together and we can be the best. If we can come 6th after a year, then what can we do in 3 years? Unfortunately, London was not to happen for rowing. In 2010, our crew was dropped by Rowing Australia. They decided to concentrate on the more disabled crews. And I thought, well, what do I do now? Then I heard about paracycling. And I heard that there was a trike category because I can't ride 2 wheels anymore. I can only ride 3. My balance is shot because of my MS. And I was very lucky that in 2012, I actually made the team for London. It was unbelievable to think that I was finally getting there. I had to race the men in London, and I had no idea how I was going to go. And in the time trial, I actually won against the men, and I was just over the moon. And I like to ask people if they think that is success. And invariably, everybody says, yes, it is. But it's not the success. The success was actually me getting there and doing the very best that I could possibly do. That day, if I'd come dead last, I still would have been successful. I've been very lucky in that my career has just gone on and on and on. And I'm very lucky that at my age, I'm still able to do what I do. I've gone on to compete at Rio, where I won 2 gold medals. I didn't have to race the men that day. And I'm hoping to be on the team for Tokyo for my 3rd Paralympic Games. So I'm very lucky in the fact that I have a team of people around me who believe in me, who support me, and who let me do what I like doing. And to be honest, cycling is my social outlet. And without sport in my life, I really don't know where I would be. You know, that doctor at the beginning was so right. My life as I knew it was over, but he was thinking in a bad way. And I like to think of it in a good way. You know, it depends on how we look at things in life that happen to us. And it depends on how we react to them. And so I like to react in the positive. This is why I think tonight you're all reacting in such a positive way to support RIAC and International Day of People with Disability. Because it's so important to realize that people with disabilities are just like anybody else. They just might have to do things a little bit different. And they might just need people like the resources that are provided through RIAC. So thank you so much for the support that you are showing tonight. It means the world to so many people out there to have the support that you're showing RIAC. I hope that you enjoy a wonderful night, have a lot of fun, and please continue supporting the really good work that RIAC does. Take care. Bye.